So basically, cheetah have been in decline for the past 13,000 years. South Africa is the first country to reverse the decline of wild cheetah populations, and our meta population has grown from 217 to 520 in the last 12 years. So we're now in a position to export wild cheetahs to other countries for reintroduction efforts, and this is the first time we have cheetahs available for these reintroduction efforts. Previously, all wild cheetah populations were in decline.
Almost a year ago, India carried out the world's biggest ever wildlife translocation, flying 8 Namibian cheetahs across continents. 5 months later, it brought 12 more from South Africa. With 6 of them now dead, along with 3 newborns and more likely to die soon, the project is now wading through rough waters. Although sudden, the recent deaths were factored in by the Cheetah Action Plan, which expected at least 50% mortality during the first year. A recent estimate by South African experts has now raised the losses to at least 75%, with just 5 to 7 out of the total 20 felines expected to make it through the year. But what has hit the project hard is that majority of these deaths were in captivity. Unlike the African countries where most cheetahs die due to snaring, leopard attacks, or possibly a human-wildlife conflict in the wild, the deaths in Kuno were largely unexpected and perhaps to a certain extent avoidable, as some experts point out. So an year down the line, with all the sudden losses, what are the mistakes that we made and what are the lessons that we learned? 3 of the cubs died in May within 2 months of being born. All were severely malnourished while still being within the enclosures. The lone cub that survived is now being hand-raised. In a rare instance, one of the female cheetahs was mauled to death by 2 other male cats when the project team decided to open the gates of the enclosures. And a month later, 2 of the cheetahs succumbed to septicemia. One of them was within the safe enclosures when it developed first signs of skin infection. The skin stretching across its spine turned black and worsened into a sepsis by the time it was noticed. Both the felines died days apart from each other, and the third succumbed to infection in the wild when efforts to recapture it failed. With the whole debate around radio collars, it was only days later that the deaths were confirmed to be caused by winter coat, a thick layer of skin that African cats develop ahead of winter, which proved to be a killer in India's humid monsoon. The conflicting opinions of experts and further disagreements with the ground staff continued to impact the project. And wary of more such infections, the officials are now waiting for the monsoon season to release the 13 cheetahs into the wild. But the extended captivity is adding to the animal stress, especially the cheetahs who were held captive in their home country for longer than usual, even before the translocation. The experts are certain that there are tougher times ahead. There are bound to be more mortality as the felines take time to adjust to the country's new seasonal cycle. The females will have to adjust to their birthing intervals, a trial and error approach where they're bound to lose more cubs initially. While the first litter with a realistic chance of survival is now likely to be born in 2024. But the South African experts warn that India will have to wait at least until 2025 for its first native-born cheetah who will grow to be independent. With the government determined to re-establish the once extinct cheetahs back in the historical range, more cheetahs are likely to be brought in. As many as 50 cheetahs were planned for translocation over 5 years as per the Cheetah Action Plan. But with Kuno as one sink reserve, an additional site will have to be realized and readied for translocation. Furthermore, the decision to restore these ecosystems must not be dictated by state boundaries. The Mukundra Tiger Reserve in the neighboring Rajasthan has a fenced enclosure of around 82 square kilometers, which has been considered ideal by conservationists. The site has also been recommended by the international experts who considered it as excellent for cheetah release. The other sites would still require relocation of villagers and continued investment for restoration. So time for course correction? South Africa took 26 years and 10 attempts to succeed in the wild cheetah reintroductions when it started out in 1966. It now has surplus cheetah population with at least 40 to 50 cheetahs available for translocation every year. But India's challenge has just begun and times have drastically changed. Vast tracts of grasslands have disappeared and wild ecosystems lost to infrastructure development. The government last week further passed another legislation to expedite diversion of forest land within 100 kilometers of Indian borders to build security establishments. If the initial objective of ecosystem restoration is still on target, then it is time that the ambitious project goes for a course correction. Thank you so much for watching CNN News 18. Keep reading our stories on news18.com for more such updates.